Hi everybody, this is Jamie from The Inaudibles, and in this video we're going to be showing you how to make a pretty cool but pretty simple vocal effect using two stock plugins in Ableton Live. What you can use this for, things like vocal effects, beginning of a transition, for risers, fallers and so forth. So let's take a look. See, the effect we're actually going to be looking at today is sort of replicating what an LFO2 rate or a low frequency ossifier rate does in a synth instrument. Now this sort of is like a choppy effect where you can speed up and slow down and so forth. So let's get right into it and see how we make it and what it sounds like. So first of all, what we're going to do is we are going to go to the MIDI effects portion. We're going to grab the arpeggiator and we're going to drop it into a MIDI track. Now it's quite important it's a MIDI track, not an audio track. Okay. So secondly then we're going to grab our sampler. So we're going to go into instruments, we're going to go to the sampler, grab it and drop it in. Now the way the effects work in Ableton, everything goes from left to right. So the arpeggiator will be plugging directly into the sampler and any effects so forth. So we need to put the arpeggiator at the beginning of the chain and then sample it second. So what you can use this for, like I've said, you can use this for vocal effects, you can put a bit of spice into your transitions, use it for risers, use it for fallers and so forth. But in this video I'm going to show you how I would use it for a vocal effect to create a build. So what we're going to do first of all, we are going to set the arpeggiator there and the sampler there, and next thing we are going to drop in our sample. So the sample I'm going to be using today is actually a vocal track of one of our songs called Starchild featuring the fantastic Rhiannon Fox. So this gives you a bit of a demonstration of how we can use this for a riser. So where you have got your sample, click, drag it into the sampler and let go, and you can see the sample then appears here. So what you need to do next is actually select the part of the sample which you wish to use. So we're going to select the very first bit of the vocal. We're going to make it nice and big so we can see it a bit bigger, and we're going to put the start point. We're going to drag the start point right to the beginning right there, and we're going to put the end point about there somewhere. I'm going to turn the volume up a little bit as well, and just to give it a little bit of a volume boost, we're going to add a compressor just so it's nice and loud and we can hear what's going on. So what we are going to do next is we are going to look at the arpeggiator settings. So two basic simple settings for the arpeggiator: sync and free. So with sync, this obviously syncs to a rate of 1/6, 1/16, a quarter, a 12th and so forth, to be in tempo with the pre-selected beats per minute, or the beats, the tempo, sorry. You can either have sync, which does kind of work pretty well, but when you're increasing and decreasing the rate, it tends to go up in audible steps. You can actually hear the step going from an 1/8 to a 1/16 and so forth. So the preferred method I prefer to go into is to click onto free. This time you can see it literally, no pun intended, flicks to a time setting. So as you're increasing, decreasing the time, the transition is a lot smoother. You don't hear it as obvious as it is in sync mode. Okay, so that's what we're going to start with as well. And also the gate. So the gate is the actual amount of the loop which will play back and affect the arpeggiator will affect. So we're going to set this one to about 120, 121. Okay, we've got it on free. So next thing we want to do, we want to create an MIDI clip. So we're going to just drag to the area we want to. We're going to right click, and then we are going to where are we? And we want to insert a MIDI clip. Create, insert MIDI clip. There we go. Okay, and you can see we have a brand new MIDI clip on there. So for the purposes of this, we are going to just create.
Hey you.
And there we go. A MIDI information. And let's set it all the way down to 17. So we've set that all the way. So now on our corresponding keyboard, because sample is such a very clever instrument, whenever we press C, we can hear Rianne's voice. And if we were to go up to D, it increases, E, and so forth. So for the purposes of this, we're going to put the steps on the pregator down to 0, because otherwise we don't want it going up in pitch and so forth. We just want the repetition being in the same note. So we can press on C. And you can see there it's repeating itself. And if we were to increase and decrease the gate, and if we were to move the gate down even further, you can see it chops off a lot sooner than it would. So like I said, we're going to set this to about 121. So let's just give you a brief demonstration of how we can affect the time. So we're going to keep an eye on the rate, and let's see what it gives us.
Hey you, hey you, hey you, hey you, hey you, hey you, hey 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 you.
So you can see the effect we're trying to get there. It replicates like a low frequency ossifier to the rate. Okay, so that's the effect we're going to go for, like to use as a builder. So what we're going to do first of all, so we've just set this over 17 bars. So what we're going to do is we're just going to give a brief demonstration of how we can affect this so you can use this within a track. So first of all, the rate is set all the way to 1. So we're just going to drop that down a little bit just for the starters. Obviously, this does depend on whatever vocal or sample you're using, but the best way is to experiment. Best way, creativity, be experimental, okay? But for the purposes of this sample, we're going to set it to about 5.18. 518 to start with, sorry. Okay, so this is where we can start playing around with our automation. So we're going to set it at the beginning, set it to about 700 milliseconds. And then what we're going to do, then we're going to draw another dot towards the end, so about 3/4 of the way in. Let's take this the time down to about 20 milliseconds, okay? And then what we're going to do then, we'll bring the time right down again, so this will start slowing down. Let's bring it down all the way just for when the new transition part kicks in, okay? What I like to do as well, because we're using Windows-based formats here, is you can use the Alt button and you can actually, there you go, curve your line of automation as well, which does make it seem a little bit more, less rigid, I suppose. So we're going to put a curvature that way, and we're going to put a curvature that way as well. So let's take a listen and see what that sounds like.
Hey you, hey you, hey you, hey you, hey 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 hey
And there we go, that's what it sounds like. Pretty cool. So another effect you can plonk on it as well to give it a bit of depth, stick a bit of reverb on. Let's bring the dry wet down to about 35%. Let's take off the low part of the reverb as well. Let's see what that sounds like.
Hey you, hey you, hey you, hey you, hey 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 hey
And there we go. So don't forget, you've got all these different stock plugins to have a play around with, but that's just a quick example of how you can use it. And like I say, you can use it for any sample you wish, but I find vocals gives it a nice little touch as well. That's all for today anyway. Thanks for watching the video. If you've liked what you've seen, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And for now, until next time, see ya.